Well, it's time now to take a look at some topics that have been trending for quite some time. The words load shedding and Eskom have come up frequently on the trends list on various social media platforms. We begin, of course, with a look at this particular tweet. The Sowetan publishing an investigation into how small businesses have been impacted by load shedding. Of course, this has been a major topic of conversation, but this was an absolutely eye-popping front cover of the Sowetan when that came out. A long list of businesses adversely affected by the load shedding. And, of course, the byline there saying, Mr. President, cancelling your double strip is one thing, dealing with the crisis is another. Here's a reminder of some small businesses crippled by every failed promise to fix Eskom. I mean, just look at that list. So this was quite the front page. But interestingly, right at the top of that list, we have the Soweto Creamery. Yeah. This, of course, is the ice cream shop that was started by Thando Makubo. He started his ice cream shop using that 350 Rand social development grant that was given to beneficiaries affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. You'll recall President Cyril Ramaphosa actually praising Thando in his State of the Nation address. And, of course, these are visuals of the president doing just that. But it's interesting to note how even, you know, young people who have used the COVID SRD grant to start businesses, to pick themselves up from their bootstraps, so to speak, how they're being adversely affected today by load shedding that government seemingly doesn't have a solution to. So a very interesting story there, but, of course, generating a lot of outrage, a lot of public reaction from South Africans. More visuals there of that Soweto Creamery struggling really with the load shedding. Because we know, I mean, with the power cuts, the fridge goes on and off. Of course. The ice cream melts. Of course. And so he no longer has product to sell. And so he's making losses as opposed to, you know, being this thriving entrepreneur. A story that was being told only about a year and a half ago. One of many businesses that really have suffered as a result of the rolling blackouts that we've been having in the country. And you mentioned that, you know, there have been a lot of movements that have weighed in. A lot of people have commented on this. The African Transformation Movement, they also weighed in on this. This is what they said: with the unemployment rate sitting at 63.9%. For those aged 15 to 24 and 42.1% for those aged 25 to 34 years, the entire workforce of the country is at risk of retrenchment due to load shedding. Take a stand and make your voice be heard. The hashtag that's been also doing the rounds is national shutdown, as South Africans look for some sort of respite from this crippling load shedding, really. And it's been such a tough time for South Africans, especially, you know, over the last few years. More recently this year, I mean, we've almost had, if I'm not mistaken, load shedding almost every day of the year so far. Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, well, we want to take a look at social media sensation Farida Metsileng, who, of course, lashed out at Ramaphosa over having his hands tied on the Eskom and NERSA load shedding matter. Let's take a look at that particular video.
The president in himself, Cyril Ramaphosa, say that his hands are tied at the back of him. He can't say anything more about this electricity of Eskom giving us, what I say the word is, indefinite blackout. 2, the same company they say is giving us the electric, they are saying we're gonna have to pay more, guys. What are we paying for if we don't get what we have to? You understand? It's like you take and you take and you take. You understand? Untie your hands, say. Get them from the back and move them forward and talk. Use your mouth. Use your power. You a social butterfly here, moving around, ignoring us, talking to the walls. We can't pay for the electric because our jobs are compromised, because electric is not there. Therefore, we can't connect to the internet. Therefore, life is getting tougher. But where is everybody else? Can't even switch on the fan because right now we're in the midst of a heat wave. I'm sweating underneath my boobs. My eye is watering. I'm sweating 24/7. I can't do this anymore. I asked you guys, do you want my location? I'm telling you now, I'm in hell. I don't know about you guys, but say, serial deposer, untie your hands. Let yourself free, say, because when it's time to fly, you can. So untie your hands. Thanks. You know, yeah, sorry guys, compliments.
Well, that was social media sensation Farida Mitziling asking the president to untie his hands, set himself free, unburden himself and take the charge on fixing this Eskom dilemma that we find ourselves in.
Yeah, and I think she speaks for a lot of South Africans at this moment, and you can hear the frustration in her voice, and it's definitely something that comes through for a lot of us at this moment, feeling like the president needs to do more. We've also had Operation Dudula. They've weighed in on safeguarding illegal connections onto the grid, which has also been another challenge that Eskom has faced. There's a video where Operation Dudula and angry residents from Freedom Park in Soweto call for interventions to safeguard infrastructure from illegal connections on the grid. Let's take a look.
Eskom, South Africans are busy. South African illegal connection, illegal foreigners, they get free in China electricity. Enough is enough.
All right, well, more visuals, of course, of angry South Africans just really voicing their outrage at the state of this power crisis, but also highlighting a complexity here with regards to illegal connections and how that has a compounding effect when it comes to load shedding and certain sections of society being able to access electricity through illegal connections and how that hampers the ability of others to access the very same electricity connections who have in fact been paying for that service. But interestingly, Azapo earlier this week also staging a sit-in at the National Energy Regulator's offices over that 18.65% tariff hike. Azapo embarked on that sit-in after calling for the organization to actually withdraw its decision to raise those tariffs by 18.65%. Let's take a look at this particular video.
National officers until such time as they have reversed this irresponsible decision. And yet, they are continuing to spend statepayers' money irresponsibly because they don't need security, they don't need additional security. They're not a security threat. But this goes to show that we have money in this country. We have money for education, we have money for health, and we have money for clean water. Except it is used to protect civilians unnecessarily, not from a visible threat, because I am no threat to anybody. I'm just here asking for them to do the right thing for South Africans.
Yeah, so of course the national shutdown, that hashtag, has been getting a lot of traction as well. We've seen there's a tweet that I want us to look at as the reactions continue to come in. South Africans continue to weigh in on what's happening from Christo Thurston. It says, we have nowhere else to go. We don't want to run away from the country of our birth like many others have done because they were too afraid to fight their corrupt leaders. We love South Africa and must do everything to protect our country. Hashtag national shutdown. Of course, many people can't even afford to get away from, the country, so to speak. They don't have other options. Their hands are more tied than what President Cyril Ramaphosa's hands are, according to Farida at the moment.
No, absolutely. And it's been interesting to see how South Africans have been almost forced to take their desperation to social media, finding it as the only channel of communication. We have another tweet here from Neo Simoko saying that for the national shutdown to actually be effective, political party regalia should be strictly prohibited. He actually says there that it should be made a national issue and not a political agenda item. Hashtag national shutdown. Lots of South Africans, in fact, agreeing with that assertion to say that if we are going to embark on a national shutdown, it cannot be party politically affiliated. It needs to be South Africans standing up in one voice, essentially saying enough is enough.
Remove the politicking from that. Really, it is, something that really has got a lot of South Africans hot under the collar, excuse the pun, and almost a heat wave as well. I mean, everything that we've watched this morning and seen and read really hits home and hits the problem on the nail.
Yeah, it's the reality of it all, really. If we have a look here, we have the Democratic Alliance leader, John Steenhuisen, saying that the DA will be going to the High Court of Pretoria to argue against Decatur deployment. He, in fact, tweeted this. Let's just have that tweet up on the screen for our viewers. The organization believing that Decatur deployment is, in fact, the reason behind the destruction of Eskom. His tweet reading there saying, on Monday, I will be at the North Gauteng High Court where we will argue to abolish Decatur deployment, the ANC policy that destroyed Eskom, wrecked South Africa, and enriched the gangster state. Join our hashtag Power to the People march on the 25th of January to the scene of the Eskom crime. Now we know, of course, the leader of the DA party throwing forward to that North Gauteng High Court arguments that's going to be heard at that particular court on Monday with regards to Decatur deployment, but also making that call for South Africans to join the organization as it marches to the ANC's headquarters, Luthuli House, over the load shedding crisis and this most recent NERSA tariff increase.